Hi, I'm Derek Gillette with Remax. This is one of our segments that we're talking about the inside of a home and how homes are built so that buyers get to see in behind the scenes look. And I'm lucky enough today to be with Ken Connolly with Pheasant Homes, one of the foremost experts in the sustainability of how homes are built, the building envelopes of houses, and the constant evolution of how building is moving forward. And today the house that we're in right now, Ken, obviously looks like we're about to get into the drywall phase.
Right.
That's there. So and one of the points I want to make here is that when we go into a house and we're showing it, from your perspective, the consumer, you get to see a beautiful finished product, you get to see the drywall up, the paint, the counters, and everything else. What you're not seeing is what's going on behind the scenes. So if I was to peel this back, I guess, this is the drywall that everybody, seeing on the outside of the house, and that's actually sitting on your studs. But once I take that away, now this is where the differences start to really matter. So maybe give me a description of what's going on here.
Yeah, well, Derek, as you pointed out, we've done a previous session where we showed this continuous insulation that's on the outside of the house, and it goes right over top of all the framing members here, and really provides a blanket of insulation to make the house that much more warm and comfortable.
Right.
So that's on the outside, and then of course there's the plywood that you can't see behind the insulation, the framing members, and the insulation filling the gaps. And then of course we're caulking all around the openings, sealing around all the penetrations, and trying to eliminate free airflow through the wall assemblies and the roof assemblies. Now the reason we're trying to do that is that when people sit in a home on a cool day,
right,
they experience discomfort if there's too much air movement. It's a subtle thing, but it's really important. When air moves outside a house, which it's always doing, there's wind acting against a house, it will literally try to push the cold air into the house.
Right.
And then it wraps around, goes around the house, and it tries to pull warm air out of the house.
I've noticed that at some houses where you can actually feel, or even sometimes hear a whistling sound.
You can hear it, you can feel it, and it's very uncomfortable, and it's not necessary. If we build a little bit better, then we can avoid having homeowners experience that. So that's why all the attention to air sealing. And in the previous time we talked, I pointed out how the walls we build breathe to the outside.
Right.
So walls do have to breathe, or we'll have rot in them or mold.
Right, it holds the moisture inside.
Right. But here inside we're all about getting a very good air barrier and sealing all the little cracks and holes, and we're doing more and more today than we ever done in the past to prevent air leakage.
Yeah, and I noticed up here that continues on, so that's also around.
Yeah, here you'll see a blue styrofoam box around a pot light. And pot lights today are sold as airtight pot lights, but that's really not true. They still do leak a fair amount, and to perform properly they should have an air space around them. If you pack insulation around them, they can overheat.
Right.
So we provide the styrofoam box to give an air space, but we air seal that box so that there's no air leakage from the pot light up into the attic.
Yes.
Because warm air, as warm air is heated up, it gets a buoyancy to it. It wants to go up.
Okay.
And it puts pressure against the ceiling and will go out any crack it can find, no matter how small it is. And again, you'll experience discomfort in the home.
One of the other things you were mentioning as well is that we'll go into a lot of houses, and a long time ago you'll see houses with single pane windows. You don't see that very often, and you'll also see quite often, buyer will ask me about condensation in the windows, which again we're not seeing as much anymore. But further to that, you had mentioned about the triple glazed windows, and I thought, well, that kind of makes sense. But you put it really nice. I think you said something about how when you're sitting against a window, it feels like insulation. It feels like you've got a really good barrier there. So what's the difference between going from the single, double, triple?
Well, this issue has been studied to death by engineers, and they've determined that if there's a certain temperature difference between the front of your body, say, and the back with a window behind you, if there's a certain temperature difference, you will feel uncomfortable. And windows are generally one of the higher sources of energy loss in a home. And we feel that, we perceive it through feeling the heat leaving our skin as it's going out the window. So going from double glazed windows to triple glazed windows can reduce the heat loss through the window somewhere between 25 and 40%.
That's huge.
It's a huge jump, whereas it's a very small price premium to add that better window into your new home when you're building it.
So a home like this, are we looking at $5,000–8,000 difference to add triple glazed windows?
No, this is a medium-sized home, and the difference was about $1,100.
Okay, so that seems strange to me, because you would assume that most homes would have triple glazed windows when you're looking at the value that it's adding to the cost that you just mentioned.
I think a lot of people aren't aware how reasonable the cost is, and we live with the idea that we live in a warm climate. And of course we do, but it's still a heating climate for a good part of the year. Okay. And that's where triple glazed windows will really help. They'll help in the summer too by reducing heat loss.
So what's interesting here as well is that when we're showing houses and we're looking at houses together, you're talking about the aesthetics of the home. But what's really important is if you sit down on the couch and you're looking at it from a perspective of the enjoyment of the house, being educated about the heat loss, about the airflow, and those things, I think adds value to the enjoyment of your house, and those are really key aspects for that. One of the other things, Ken, that I noticed here was, which I don't see all the time, is I'm seeing and you may not be able to see this, so we'll do a closer shot, but we've got the foundation or the slab here, which in another video we'll be describing different things you can do with the slab and heating of it and those things, and I believe this home has that. But again, that'll be another segment of talking about heating floors. But I've noticed that as it comes up to the foundation, I'm seeing some black tar or tape or something here. What do we got going on there?
Yeah, Derek, that's an air sealing membrane applied to join the concrete floor to the foundation walls around the house. The reason it's there is, again, to control air movement. Just like wind acts against a house to drive air in and out of it, there's what's called the stack effect, where warm air becomes more buoyant and rises to the top of the building. If it can get out, it will, right, and it'll suck in air from underground.
So you're actually getting air coming in from the bottom?
You are, and that defies common sense, but it's been researched very carefully and found there's significant leakage can happen. As long as air can get out there, it's got to come in from somewhere, and it will come literally through the ground. The ground is porous,
right? And
so we're doing a job, we are making an effort now to seal this wherever we have joints between the concrete floor and any other elements.
Yeah, and in doing this, what we'll do is we're going to try to find a picture on the internet as well to show that you have your foundation, and I'm just used to this and seeing this in houses, and then you pour your slab up or two or over that, and then you've got that connection, and it's that space that's in there that we're referring to. So that hopefully we'll have a photo up so you can understand what we're referring to in that scenario. And I noticed that in your house throughout, there was just lots of this. I've seen blue skin in different areas, even inside the house. Yeah. This isn't an outside wall. But I noticed in the inside that there was areas that you also had the blue skin over top of just an interior wall.
Right.
So same premise?
Yeah, the principle is the same. Again, it's possible for air to leak in where there's joints in the concrete sections inside the house. So we'll seal those too.
Interesting. Okay, so the point of the video is really to have you enjoy your house a lot more. Now, whether you're having a home built and you're talking to an expert like Ken and having him build this for you, now you get a bit of a sense of what's going on behind the scenes in the house that you're having built, but also things to ask your inspector or when you're walking through a home of how the home is built. And quite often, obviously, inspectors can't start pulling drywall off and looking at that. But it really makes you pay attention to the quality of the house that you're moving into for your family, and that's why I think these videos are absolutely excellent to have. So Ken, you know what? I really appreciate it. This has been great.
Thanks.
Thanks again.